Sarah Chen's finger hovered over the denied stamp. The old man's prescription authorization looked legitimate. But 1973? That couldn't be right. What she didn't know about the name on that card would change everything in the next 3 minutes. Some call signs are whispered, not spoken. Watch what happens when curiosity meets classified history. Type Reaper if you believe respect is earned before it's demanded. His name was James Mitchell, 82 years old, silver hair, weathered hands, and a slight limp that spoke of old injuries. He stood at the pharmacy counter of Miller's Drugs on a Tuesday afternoon, prescription in hand, waiting patiently while Sarah processed his order. "Sir, I'm going to need updated authorization." Sarah's voice was professional but firm. She slid the card back across the counter. This expired in 1973. James looked at the card. His military prescription authorization, lifetime benefit. Or so he'd been told. "Ma'am, that's a lifetime authorization. It doesn't expire." "I understand you believe that, sir, but our system won't accept anything this old." She was already turning to the next customer. "You'll need to contact the VA and get updated paperwork." The pharmacy was busy. Tuesday afternoons always were. Other customers shifted impatiently behind James. He could feel their eyes on his worn jacket, his faded jeans. An old man holding up the line. "I've been using this card for 50 years, James said quietly. His voice carried a weight that made Sarah pause. Just slightly. At pharmacies across the country. Never been a problem. "Well, it's a problem here." Sarah's jaw tightened. She'd dealt with difficult customers before, people who thought rules didn't apply to them. "Our policy is clear. No authorization older than 10 years. "That's not military policy." James's voice remained level. Calm. But there was something in his eyes. The way he assessed her. The pharmacy. The exits. Old habits die hard. Sarah noticed a detail on the card she'd missed. "Call sign." She almost laughed. "Reaper 1. "Sir, is this some kind of joke?" The man behind James in line shifted uncomfortably. He was younger, maybe 40, wearing a navy baseball cap. His posture changed when he heard the call sign, straightened, like he'd heard something he shouldn't have. "No joke," James said simply. "I'm sorry, but I can't fill this prescription without proper authorization. You'll need to leave and come back when you have valid documentation." Sarah was already closing his file. Case closed. Next customer. James stood there for a moment. Not angry. Not defeated. Just tired. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with having the same conversation too many times. "I understand. Thank you for your time." He turned to leave. The limp was more pronounced as he walked toward the door. Old wound, foreign country, different lifetime. But something nagged at Sarah as the next customer stepped up. That call. Sign. Reaper 1. It sounded familiar, like something she'd heard in a documentary once. Or maybe she was imagining it. The pharmacy remained busy for the next 20 minutes. Sarah filled prescriptions, answered questions, maintained her professional efficiency. But her mind kept drifting back to that card, to those 2 words. Reaper 1. During a lull, she pulled out her phone. Just a quick search, just to satisfy her curiosity. She typed, "Reaper 1 call sign military." The results made her stop breathing. The first result was a declassified CIA document, partially redacted. But the summary was clear. Operation Neptune Spear, predecessor. SEAL Team classification. 1973 Cambodia extraction. Sarah clicked another link. A military history forum. The discussion thread was marked highly classified, recently declassified. Her hands started shaking as she read. Reaper 1 was the call sign for the commander of what many consider the most dangerous SEAL operation before Bin Laden. 16 men went into Cambodia. Hostile territory. Mission: extract 3 captured intelligence officers before enemy forces executed them. The operation was off books, unsanctioned. If caught, the U.S. would deny everything. She scrolled faster. Commander was 32 years old, led his team through 47 miles of enemy jungle, sustained multiple casualties, lost 2 men, but extracted all 3 targets. The intelligence they brought back prevented a major international incident and saved an estimated 200 American lives. The commander was shot twice, continued the mission, refused evacuation until his team was safe. Another search. Reaper 1, 1973, James Mitchell. The screen filled with recently declassified photographs. A younger man, but the eyes were the same. Those eyes that had assessed her pharmacy like a tactical situation. Because that's exactly what he'd done. Presidential commendation, classified, 3 Purple Hearts, Silver Star, Navy Cross, all classified until 2021. 50 years of silence about an operation that should have been impossible. Sarah's stomach dropped. She looked toward the door where James Mitchell had limped away 30 minutes ago. The man she'd dismissed. The man she'd accused of having a fake authorization. The same authorization that was legitimate because it came from the Secretary of Defense himself. Lifetime pharmaceutical benefits for classified operations personnel. Never expires. Never needs updating. She'd sent away a man who'd earned more respect than she could comprehend. The man in the Navy cap was still there, browsing vitamins near the counter. He'd been there the whole time. Not shopping. Waiting. He approached the counter slowly. "Excuse me, that gentleman who was here earlier, James Mitchell, did you refuse his prescription?" Sarah couldn't speak, just nodded. "Ma'am, I'm Chief Petty Officer Mike Torres." "Retired. I thought I recognized the name." He pulled out his phone, showed her a photograph. Military ceremony. Younger version of Mike standing in formation, and there, presenting an award, was James Mitchell. Older, but clearly in command. Clearly respected. That's from the declassification ceremony 3 years ago, when the government finally acknowledged what Reaper 1 and his team did. I was there because my father served under Commander Mitchell. He talked about him until the day he died. Said Reaper 1 was the reason Dad made it home from Cambodia. Sarah felt sick. The operation went sideways fast, Mike continued. His voice was reverent, educational, like he was explaining something sacred. Mitchell's team was supposed to have air support. Radio failed. Extraction choppers couldn't find them. They were supposed to abort. Commander Mitchell refused. Said those 3 intelligence officers had families, had lives. He wasn't leaving them. His team fought through 3 enemy platoons. Mitchell took a round through his shoulder, another through his leg. Didn't report it for 6 hours because he needed his men focused on the mission, not on him. They found the intelligence officers. They'd been beaten, tortured. One couldn't walk. Mike's voice got quieter. Mitchell carried that officer himself. 12 miles through hostile jungle, wounded, leading his team, calling in improvised extraction coordinates on a failing radio. When they finally got to the LZ, he collapsed. But every man who went in came out, except the 2 they lost in the initial contact. And he still carries that weight. Sarah couldn't look up from the counter. The authorization, it's real. It's more than real. It's a promise from a government to a man who gave everything and asked for nothing in return. That card means he never has to worry about medical care for the rest of his life, ever, at any pharmacy, any hospital, anywhere in America. I need to... Sarah couldn't finish the sentence. You need to call him, apologize, fill that prescription. Mike's voice was firm now, not angry, but absolutely certain. And then you need to remember that sometimes the quietest people in the room have the loudest stories. You just have to be willing to listen. Mike pulled a business card from his wallet. This is the VA liaison office number. They'll confirm everything. And they'll explain why that authorization doesn't have an expiration date. Some things transcend paperwork, ma'am. Service like Commander Mitchell's transcends everything. Sarah stared at the business card, at her phone still showing James Mitchell's classified service record, at the prescription she'd refused to fill. 20 minutes later, she found James Mitchell sitting on a bench outside a coffee shop 3 blocks down. Same worn jacket. Same tired patience. He wasn't angry. Wasn't even surprised to see her approaching. "Commander Mitchell?" Her voice cracked. "Sir, I owe you an apology." He looked up. Those eyes that had seen combat, sacrifice, impossible decisions. "You were doing your job." "No, sir, I wasn't. I was making assumptions. She couldn't continue. "You didn't know." His voice was gentle, forgiving in a way she didn't deserve. "Classified for 50 years. How could you?" "Chief Torres told me about Cambodia, about Reaper 1. Sarah held out a small pharmacy bag. "Your prescription. Filled. With our deepest apologies. And I've updated our system. Your authorization will never be questioned again, at any Miller's Drugs anywhere." James took the bag, nodded. "Thank you. Sir, the operation. What you did. 16 men going into hostile territory. The 3 officers you saved. That should have been impossible." It almost was. James stood slowly, the limp still there, forever there. But we had something impossible to beat. We had a mission. We had each other. And we had families at home who deserved to see us try. He started to leave, then paused, turned back. The 2 men we lost, Davis and Chen, they were the real heroes. They engaged the enemy to give us time to reach the extraction point. I got medals. They got stars on a wall at Langley that most people will never see. Sarah noticed the name. Chen was Chen. Chinese-American, born in San Francisco, spoke 3 languages, brilliant operator, best pointman I ever served with. James's eyes held hers. He'd be proud to know someone with his name helped make this right today. It wasn't accusation. It was grace. Sarah watched James Mitchell walk back down the street, slower than he should have to walk, carrying injuries from a war most people never knew happened, fighting a battle that was erased from official records until 3 years ago. The next morning, there was a framed document on the pharmacy wall, right behind Sarah's counter where she could see it every day. Mike Torres had brought it by, a declassified citation, partial text visible, for extraordinary heroism and selfless dedication beyond the call of duty. Commander Mitchell's actions under impossible circumstances exemplify the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Below it, Sarah had added a small placard. Her own words: "Never judge a prescription by its date. Never judge a warrior by his wounds. Some authorizations transcend paperwork. Some service transcends time." James came back the next month for his refill. Sarah had it ready. No questions, no hesitation, just respect freely given, because respect should have been offered from the first moment, not earned through revelation, but given because dignity is everyone's right. He nodded his thanks. She nodded back. And in that exchange was an understanding. Some lessons aren't taught in pharmacy school. They're learned through failure, through humility, through meeting men who carried call signs like Reaper 1 and never spoke of them because the mission was never about recognition. It was about service, and that service never expires. Respect isn't about what someone can prove. It's about what we choose to offer before we know the whole story. The quietest people often carry the heaviest medals, and the most faded authorizations sometimes represent the most extraordinary sacrifices. If this story moved you, the next one will stop you cold. It's about a homeless man who walked into a courtroom and said 2 words that made a judge stand at attention. The reason why? You won't believe it. Subscribe to channel name for more stories of hidden heroes who deserve our recognition. Comment Reaper if you believe veterans have earned our respect for life, and hit that like button if you think some sacrifices should never be questioned. Share this with someone who needs to remember, dignity isn't granted by paperwork. It's owed to those who bled for it.